Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to see how to use constraints in SQL Server. What is constraint? To specify rules for data in a table is called constraint. Whenever the rules got satisfied, you are able to insert data inside a table. There are various constraints available in SQL Server. One is not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, and default constraints. We have already seen not null, primary key, and foreign key constraint in the previous lectures. What is unique constraint? The unique constraint ensures that all values in a column are different. You might be thinking, primary key also doing the same. What is the difference between a unique constraint and a primary key constraint? Primary key will not accept null values in a column, whereas unique keys can accept one null value. Just remember that it will allow only one null value. So that is where the difference between the unique key and the primary key. What is check constraint? Check constraint is used to limit the value range that can be placed in a column. For example, we have a voters table. Only with the age greater than or equal to 18 is allowed to vote. We put a check constraint on a table to ensure only the rows which fulfills the rule can get into the voters table. So the person who is having the age greater than 18 or equal to 18 can get into the voters table. That's how check constraint can be used, and we can see it in the demo further. What is default constraint? The default constraint is used to provide a default value for a column. For example, the user is not entering a value for a column. Example, column name is city. Now we want to capture a default value when a user is not entered. The default value can be a Chennai in our case. So that's how we can set a default value for a column. Let's look into the demo. Let's flip back to the SQL Server Management Studio. The first example we are going to see is for unique constraint. I am going to create a table, constraint demo, and I have a column called ID and name. The ID column has been marked to unique constraint. Let me create the table first. The table got created. Now I'm going to insert first 3 rows to the table. I'm just going to execute it. It got inserted. One thing you have noticed here is we have a null value where check constraint allows null value, where the primary key constraint doesn't allow null values. Now I'm going to insert the 4th row where the value is 1, which is already inserted. Let's see what happens. You could see that violation of unique key constraint error been thrown. That's how unique key constraint ensures uniqueness to the column. Now, let me take an example for the check constraint. We are going to create a voters table. I'm going to have a column ID, first name, last name, age. And I have a check constraint where age is greater than or equal to 18 only. The person can get into this voter table. The person can get into the voters table. First, let me create this table. Now I'm going to insert a value to the voters table where the age equal to 10. Let's see what happens. As expected, we are getting a check key constraint error. So let me put a value 20 and let's test it out again. Now we are able to insert a row inside the voters table. Let's look at an example for the default constraint. We are going to create an employee table which has ID, first name, last name, age, and city. City value is not given by the user. A default value will be entered, which is Chennai. So let's create this table. We are going to insert into this table. If you see this insert query, we have ID, last name, first name, age. I haven't given the column for city. Let's enter it. Now I'm going to select from the table. You see that even though we didn't give value for the city column, the default value Chennai has been inserted into the table. In this lecture, we have seen example for unique constraint, check constraint, and other default constraint. That is how in SQL Server we use constraints. We'll see you in the next lecture.